If you call a spade, you'll get labeled all types of names. Imagine Scott Agnes criticizing South Carolina and Asia Wilson fans for going after Caitlin Clark during her rookie season. Imagine the backlash.
Imagine getting so rattled by excited fans that you whip up a whole essay like you're campaigning to be Darth Vader's next press secretary. That's exactly what one Indiana Fever reporter did, casting Caitlin Clark supporters as if they were full-blown Star Wars villains. Foam fingers and all. Welcome to the latest episode of Journalists Gone Wild, where one writer's meltdown has the internet asking, when did the WNBA turn into the MCU? Grab your popcorn, this drama's hotter than Caitlin's three-point percentage.
Today, in an article, he put something in there, and I don't know if he thought it was going to be a side note to his article, but you cannot call Caitlin Clark fans the dark side of the fandom. No, that wasn't the greatest or smartest idea in the world.
Picture this, Caitlin Clark, yes. The same Caitlin who dragged women's college basketball out of the shadows and into primetime has now become the target of a hit piece. But not just any article. No, this was a full-blown viral tantrum, typed out by a sports journalist with the emotional range of a flat basketball. And get this, it wasn't even aimed directly at Caitlin. That'd be too easy. Instead, the fury was unleashed on her fans. You know, the ones guilty of the unthinkable crime of supporting her. How dare they?
This is really disappointing from a journalist so closely linked to the Indiana Fever organization. This is really, really disappointing, and it's really concerning in my opinion, because it is painting a 23-year-old on their team who is currently injured.
Apparently, this reporter, let's just call him the high priest of hot garbage, has decided that cheering for Caitlin Clark automatically makes you part of the dark side. Yep, according to him, rocking a number 22 Fever jersey and applauding a deep three is now some kind of Sith-level offense. Move over, Darth Vader. There's a new villain in town, and she's selling out merch while hitting logo shots. All that's missing is John Williams scoring the background every time someone clicks. Add to cart.
Imagine Scott Agnes writing an article about the Reese's Pieces and all their negative vitriol, shout out to L. Duncan, that's been targeted to Caitlin Clark. Imagine the backlash he would receive. But what's the safe way out? What's the safest way to big up the Indiana Fever? Well, you tear down Caitlin Clark's fans.
Meanwhile, Indiana Fever management is out here perfecting the art of doing absolutely nothing. They're stumbling around like they're trapped in a Scooby-Doo episode, desperately trying to solve the mystery of why Caitlin Clark fans are upset. The answer couldn't be more obvious. You've got the most electrifying rookie in WNBA history playing in a league where the officiating makes WWE look like the Harvard debate team.
Listen, man, this is very sad, very disappointing. It's disgusting that Caitlin Clark has to be subjected to this nonsense. And enough's enough. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. She needs to come out and draw the line in the sand. And it would not shock me if at some point, man, Caitlin Clark is just done with this.
Let's start with the league, shall we? In all its infinite wisdom, the WNBA has somehow taken Caitlin Clark, the same woman who used to drop 40-point triple-doubles like she was handing out Skittles in Iowa, and dropped her into a system where the refs act like they majored in petty with a minor in questionable calls. Every game feels less like basketball and more like a Shakespearean tragedy if we're directed by someone who gets all their life advice from Twitter arguments.
But yesterday they also announced the skills competition for the WNBA All-Star team. And she didn't make that either. So you argued she wasn't good for the Olympics. Your argument, though I don't buy it, but it was your argument, women's basketball, that she would be a distraction. So isn't the perfect place to put her in the skills competition?
The NCAA treated Caitlin Clark like a once-in-a-generation phenom. The WNBA, more like a freshman at Mean Girls High. If the NCAA was that supportive guidance counselor hyping her up from the sidelines, the WNBA is Regina George wondering why she's so obsessed with being, great. We've gone from primetime Game of the Week coverage to Game of the Weekend. If nothing better's on, because clearly, spotlighting your most marketable star is just bad business strategy, right? Now, let's talk about this. Man's so allergic to accountability, you'd think he needs an EpiPen anytime someone utters the word objectivity. He's not just reporting anymore. Oh, no, he's on a mission to educate us. According to him, supporting Caitlin Clark is toxic. Not because you're loud, rude, or out of line, but simply because you exist. It's the kind of journalism that makes you wonder if he got his degree from the back of a cereal box. And when people call him out for blatantly ignoring the cheap shots Clark takes on court, he pivots harder than a yoga instructor in a blackout. But hey, who needs accuracy? When you're writing from a bunker built out of bias and bitterness,
winners of 7 of 9. The Fever are playing connected.
This man claims he's endured so much hate. Really? Because last time we checked, it's Caitlin Clark who's been verbally attacked on and off the court. Elbowed in the face, fouled with all the grace of a flying anvilan still. Her biggest outburst has been a polite thank you at a press conference. Meanwhile, this reporter goes into full digital meltdown anytime someone in the comments dares to ask him to brace yourself, *, acknowledge, reality, *. What's truly wild is that he has never not once called out the obvious cheap shots aimed at Clark, not when she was shelved, not when she got fouled, like someone was trying to summon her spirit animal, not when she got body-checked mid-layup crickets. But suddenly, he finds the time and emotional bandwidth to crank out a 1,200-word essay, blaming her fans for everything from global warming to bad vibes. And let's talk about those fans, shall we? Because the way he describes Clark's supporters, you'd think they were plotting world domination. This is orbit-level spin. The man's twisting himself into such rhetorical pretzels, we're shocked Auntie Anne's hasn't sent a cease and desist, try to talk actual basketball. He dodges harder than a dad in a family therapy session. Forget that Clark got flattened without a whistle. You're the problem for noticing.
Nasty. If y'all don't know who Scott Agnes is, he's a guy that's he's very close to the team. He gets a lot of access. He's in the practices. He's interviewing the players at practice. He's interviewing the players pre-game, post-game. He is very close with the team and has a lot of access to the players and the team.
What's even more pathetic is how all of this has morphed into a full-blown cottage industry of envy. The WNBA has spent decades begging for mainstream attention, pleading for packed arenas, TV deals, merch sales, and sponsors. Now, along comes Caitlin Clark, who delivers all of that on a silver platter, crashing websites with jersey orders, selling out arenas, and bringing in viewership numbers the league has never seen. And somehow, her biggest crime is being too successful. At this point, it's starting to feel like that one coworker who never does their job but gets mad when someone else earns the promotion. Only in this case, it's not petty office politics, elbows, ejections, and one very bitter man with a WordPress login. And let's address the classic line. *, she's not the only rookie. Wow, groundbreaking stuff? Yes, we're aware. There are other rookies, some of them are absolutely incredible. But buying a Caitlin Clark jersey doesn't mean you're starting a cult. It means you recognize greatness when you see it. And here's the ultimate irony. The very pundits and reporters who spend their entire day bashing Caitlin Clark's fan base, they're only relevant because of Caitlin Clark. If she weren't in the league, half of them would be stuck live-tweeting pickleball matches or writing Yelp reviews for Waffle House.
The ignorance is loud here, folks. They're only there for Clark. Boy, you stepped in it. But that dark side can easily seep into the team. The Caitlin Clark fans, the dark side. Because they're very passionate about a player, and yes, they put their money where their mouth is. So these people, these fans, feel invested.
This man has practically built his entire platform on not supporting Caitlin Clark. He's the self-appointed president of the Anti-Fans Fan Club. His whole brand is shouting into the void about how she's overrated, then gaslighting anyone who dares point out the obvious. She's not just good, she's revolutionary, where professionalism was the standard and favoritism wasn't the core marketing strategy. She'd already be deep in MVP conversations, but instead, she's out here dodging full-blown defensive ambushes like she's auditioning for Gladiator, while the refs sip herbal tea and pretend they don't see it. And the worst part, every time she responds with humility, composure, and grace traits that are supposed to be positive somehow, even that gets spun against her. Why doesn't she fight back, they ask. Why is she so quiet? Maybe, just maybe, because she knows the microscope is already zoomed in on her face and blinking red. She doesn't need to feed the trolls, especially the ones who clearly haven't watched a full game without bias since flip phones were trendy. Let's not forget, this woman brought millions of dollars of value into a league that 5 years ago couldn't even sell out a concession stand. She got fans nationwide engaging with women's basketball at a level no one thought possible. And the media's response from certain corners, "You guys cheer too loudly. Please stop liking her. It'd be funny if it weren't so embarrassingly pathetic."
Indiana Fever reporter Scott Agnes has decided that now would be the time, now that the Fever have won a few games, now would be the time to attack Caitlin Clark fans. While, of course, and I'm not even going to go through because some of them are really nasty.
Caitlin Clark didn't just make the WNBA relevant, she made it unavoidable. ESPN covers her like she's running for president. Opposing arenas erupt when she sinks a three. Cities see tourism spikes when the Fever roll into town. But sure, let's focus on the real issue. The flangs. Not the flying elbows. Not the blatant no-calls. Not the league's refusal to protect its biggest star. Not even the laughably biased officiating that would make a soccer ref turn red. No pit. Those terrible fans out there buying t-shirts and selling out arenas. The horror, honestly. If that's the dark side, then hand me a lightsaber, because this version of the Force is generating revenue, growing the game, and giving young girls everywhere a reason to dream bigger. Meanwhile, our favorite sideline philosopher can keep banging away at his keyboard in the comfort of his own irrelevance, watching the sport he claims to love finally rise, just not in the way he imagined. 1 minute, Caitlin's splitting defenders like Moses partying the Red Sea. The next, she's getting whistled for a travel so soft even her grandma would raise an eyebrow. And the defenders throwing elbows with all the grace of a drunken rhinoceros, and still not a sound, not a whistle, not a word. It's like the refs think they're auditioning for America's funniest home whistle blows.
By off social media, do you mean that they don't read the notifications? Because they're all on social media, except for maybe Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell. You want me to believe, I mean, Brianna Turner's always on social media. You want me to believe that these players who are so addicted to the drama, who are so addicted to the outside noise, have gone off social media? Stop gaslighting us. We don't believe you. You need more people. We don't believe you. You need more people.
Let's not forget the wildly creative foul calls that seem to exist exclusively for Caitlin Clark. Drive to the rim, that's a flagrant. Contest a three, technical foul. Blink on defense, better review that. Honestly, it's almost impressive how consistently inconsistent the officiating has become. At this point, you'd get a more fair decision from a toddler trying to decide who gets the booster seat at dinner. And then there's the luxury of how the league applies its rules somewhere, between blatant favoritism and thinly veiled racism. It's like a choose-your-own-adventure book, except every option ends with Caitlin being cast as the villain. Get hacked on a drive. Let's not focus on the foul, let's replay her reaction from 5 angles until we've edited it into a crime scene. Sink a clutch shot and crack a smile. Quick zoom in, slow it down, cue the ominous soundtrack.
Actually, now you would think that sentence is actually setting up in defense of the Indiana Fever, right? Because when you're on the top of the mountain, when you're the GOAT at the top of the mountain, you are going to get all the arrows. You're going to get all the arrows. This is true in any sport. This is true in life in general. When you are successful, you become a target. It doesn't matter that you might have started at the bottom.
At least Darth Vader got a cool theme song. But here's the kicker. Despite all of it, Caitlin Clark takes every cheap shot, every bad call, every media hit job, and wraps it up like it's Christmas morning. She just shakes her head, jogs back on defense, and drops stat lines that make calculators short-circuit. And US fans, we're still here, still cheering, because supporting greatness isn't optional, it's instinct. Which brings us back to our resident keyboard crusader. He's probably at home polishing his I told you so trophy while Caitlyn's out there being the WNBA's MVP in everything except the final box score. To him, the fans are the problem. To us, he's comic relief, the Thanksgiving uncle, who thinks gravy is a government plot. So stay tuned for the grand finale, where we torch this circus with one simple truth. In basketball, like in life, you don't get to choose the hero. The hero chooses you.